Listen closely, because the next few minutes can rewrite the direction of your life. You want 2026 to look different? Then you must be different. Not someday, not eventually. Now, here are the 6 power shifts you must master before 2026 hits you in the face with reality. Your life will never rise above the identity you carry. You can chase every dream, every target, every plan, but if the person you are doesn't match the life you want, the gap will suffocate you. This is why so many people set huge goals every year and still wake up feeling stuck. They change the goals but keep the same habits, the same doubts, the same self-perception. Growth does not respond to hope, it responds to identity. Before 2026 arrives, you must make a bold, conscious decision to upgrade the person behind the goals, because your goals can be magnificent, but without the identity to sustain them, they collapse under their own weight. The truth is simple. The life you want cannot exist with the identity you've outgrown. Most people never pause long enough to ask themselves a powerful question: who am I becoming? They ask what they want, the car, the job, the income, the peace. But they never ask who they must evolve into to hold those things without breaking. Success doesn't show up fully formed, it shows up as a mirror. And that mirror will expose every limit you haven't confronted. You want confidence? You have to become the kind of person who acts boldly, even while trembling. You want abundance? Become the person who believes they deserve abundance. You want love? Become someone who treats themselves like someone worthy of deep, nourishing connection. Your identity is the soil from which every outcome grows. If the soil is dry, the garden dies, no matter how beautiful the seed. Every transformation in your life begins with a decision to shed the version of you that has stayed comfortable for too long. Comfort can be poison dressed as peace. It whispers, stay here a little longer, even when you know you've outgrown that chapter. But 2026 is not waiting for you to feel ready. It's moving. Time is moving, life is moving. And if you don't move with it, you'll look back wondering how another year slipped through your fingers. Upgrading your identity means releasing old narratives. I'm not enough. I'm not that kind of person. I've never done it before. These stories are not truths, they're cages. And every cage you hold on to is one you're choosing to remain in. Identity is not inherited, it's built. And if the old identity is too small for the life you're trying to step into, you must break it apart and rebuild from the inside out. The shift isn't just internal, it's behavioral. Identity isn't what you think about yourself. Identity is what you repeatedly prove through action. When you wake up earlier to honor your commitments, when you choose discipline over impulse, when you show up even on the days you're tired, you are physically rewiring your identity. You are telling yourself, I am the kind of person who follows through. That's where power comes from. Not from declarations, but from evidence. Every action is a vote for the person you're becoming. And the more votes you cast, the more concrete your new identity becomes. By the time 2026 arrives, people should barely recognize the older version of you, not because you became someone else, but because you finally became who you were meant to be. Upgrading your identity also means raising your standards. Not goals, standards. Goals are about what you want. Standards are about what you refuse to tolerate. There's a difference. You can want success but still tolerate procrastination. You can want love but still tolerate self-sabotage. You can want growth but still tolerate the same habits that kept you stuck. The moment you stop accepting behaviors that shrink you, your identity expands. And as your identity expands, your capacity expands, your courage expands, your influence expands. Suddenly you start attracting opportunities that once felt impossible. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You stop negotiating with your... When you practice discipline, you don't just get more things done. You become more grounded, more resilient, more unshakable. What most people fail to understand is that discipline is not built in a sprint, it is built in repetition. It is a muscle. And like any muscle, it grows when you use it consistently, not perfectly. You will miss days, you will stumble, You will fall into old habits. But discipline is not about perfection, it's about return. It's about choosing to realign, even after a setback. Most people lose momentum because they believe failure is a sign to stop. Those who win understand that failure is simply feedback. They don't start over every Monday. They don't wait for the next month. They just get back up. Because discipline is built through persistent recommitment. And that persistence becomes the very thing that makes you unstoppable. The final truth about discipline is the one most people run from. Discipline requires sacrifice. You will have to give up comfort, entertainment, laziness, habits that soothe you but sabotage you. You will have to choose long-term strength over short-term relief. You will have to disappoint people who want you to stay the same. Sacrifice is the price of evolution. But here's the part they never tell you. Once discipline becomes your default, the sacrifices don't feel like losses. They feel like upgrades. You begin to sense your power. You begin to feel your purpose. You begin to understand that the life you want is not built by chance. It is built by choice, repeated every single day. Because when you master discipline, you no longer chase the life you want. You build it with your own hands. And by 2026, the world will not be asking if you're ready. It will be wondering how you became so unstoppable. Focus is the new form of wealth, and most people don't realize how expensive their distractions have become. Every time you drift, every time you scroll without thinking, every time you give your attention to noise instead of vision, you are handing pieces of your future away. Focus isn't just about concentration, it's about intention. It's about knowing exactly what matters and refusing to dilute your purpose. And in a world that constantly pulls your mind in a dozen directions, the ability to direct your attention with precision becomes a superpower. People say they want success, but they spend their time feeding habits that guarantee mediocrity. Before 2026 arrives, you must reclaim the most valuable asset you have, your focus. Most distractions disguise themselves as harmless, even entertaining. They give you a short burst of escape that feels harmless in the moment, but over time they condition your mind for fragmentation. Your attention becomes scattered, your energy divided, your goals blurry. That's how dreams die. Not with a dramatic collapse, but with small daily leaks that drain your potential until you have nothing left to give. Focus requires awareness. It demands that you look at your life and ask the hardest question, is this helping me or hurting me? Sometimes the truth is uncomfortable. Sometimes the things you enjoy are the things keeping you average. But growth is never found in comfort. Growth is found in choosing what builds you, not what distracts you. To protect your focus, you must create boundaries that feel like stepping into a higher version of yourself. Boundaries with your phone, boundaries with your time, boundaries with people who treat your attention like it's free. You owe no one constant access to your mind. Focus requires solitude, moments without noise, without opinions, without digital chaos. In those quiet spaces, your clarity sharpens, ideas rise, your vision becomes loud again. You start to feel aligned with something bigger than the daily rush. Focus is not about isolation, it's about intention. It's learning to give your energy to the things that deserve it and starving the things that don't. The truth is, you cannot build a legendary life while living in reaction mode. Most people spend their day reacting, responding to notifications, jumping from task to task, letting their schedule control them instead of controlling their schedule. Focus flips that dynamic. It puts you back in the driver's seat. It teaches you to set priorities, to move with purpose, to direct your day instead of surviving it. When you master focus, productivity stops feeling like pressure and starts feeling like power. You accomplish more with less stress. You work smarter and deeper. You gain momentum. You stop feeling overwhelmed because you finally know what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Focus also requires the courage to let go. Let go of habits that numb you. Let go of commitments that drain you. Let go of people who interrupt your peace. Let go of the fear of missing out. Let go of the old identity that needed distraction to feel alive. When you eliminate the unnecessary, the essential becomes visible. You begin to see your path clearly. You begin to recognize your priorities. You begin to understand that every yes you give away is a no to something meaningful. Focus is not about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. And sometimes that means cutting away things that are comfortable but costly. Ultimately, focus is a form of self-honor. When you choose focus, you're telling yourself, my dreams matter, my future matters, my time matters. You stop treating your goals like afterthoughts. You stop competing for attention with your own distractions. You become intentional, deliberate, selective. And that is where transformation begins. Not in multitasking, not in chaos, but in deliberate, concentrated effort. When you train your mind to stay aligned with your purpose, your life begins to accelerate. You gain clarity, confidence, conviction. You stop wasting years on things that don't move you forward. By the time 2026 arrives, you won't just be working harder, you'll be working with a level of focus so sharp that nothing can pull you off your path. Because when you master focus, you stop living by accident and start living by design, and the world begins to reshape itself around your clarity. Your environment is the silent architect of your destiny. It shapes your habits, reinforces your beliefs, and influences your expectations long before you realize it. People like to believe they are completely self-directed, but no one thrives in isolation. You become what surrounds you, whether you choose it consciously or not. Before 2026 arrives, you must take a hard look at the spaces you move in and the people you keep close. Are they pushing you forward or keeping you small? Are they fueling your ambition or draining your potential? Your environment is not just where you live, it's what you tolerate. And every environment either expands you or confines you. The truth many refuse to face is that some environments are designed to keep you comfortable, not powerful. Comfort feels safe, but it also keeps you stagnant. You need people who challenge your ideas, not just echo your opinions. You need rooms where you feel slightly out of your league, rooms that force you to rise. If everyone around you is content staying the same, you will feel guilty for wanting more. If everyone around you doubts themselves, you will begin doubting yourself too. Identity is contagious. Mindsets are contagious. Energy is contagious. And if you're not careful, you will inherit limits that were never yours to carry simply because you stayed in the wrong environment for too long. Growth requires courage, and sometimes that courage means outgrowing people you once loved deeply. It doesn't mean abandoning them. It means refusing to shrink to keep them comfortable. You don't need to cut people out with anger. You just need to stop allowing their fears to shape your decisions. Some individuals will misunderstand your ambition. They will interpret your evolution as arrogance, your focus as distance, your dreams as unrealistic. That's because your growth exposes their stagnation. But you cannot dim your light just because others prefer the dark. You don't owe anyone an apology for choosing an environment that supports the future you're building. Creating the right environment means intentionally designing the spaces that support your highest self. This includes the physical spaces you inhabit, your home, your workspace, your routines. A cluttered environment leads to a cluttered mind. A chaotic environment leads to chaotic habits. When you step into spaces that inspire you, you move differently, you think differently, you create differently. A desk organized with purpose makes you show up with purpose. A room filled with reminders of your goals reminds you who you are becoming. Your environment should reflect your future, not your past. Surround yourself with things, habits, and people that vibrate at the frequency of the life you want. Your environment also determines your energy. And energy is often the difference between taking action and delaying action. When you spend time with people who complain, you become a complainer. When you're surrounded by people who constantly make excuses, you start believing excuses are reasonable. But when you are around people who dream boldly, who take risks, who push themselves, who demand excellence from themselves, you feel compelled to rise, not from pressure, but from inspiration. Excellence becomes normal. Growth becomes expected. Effort becomes natural. You begin to feel alive in a way you didn't know you were missing. That is the environment you deserve. That is the environment that transforms you. Ultimately, upgrading your environment is about protecting your evolution. You cannot plant a seed in dry, toxic soil and expect it to bloom. And you cannot plant your future in environments that drain your potential. You must choose spaces that challenge you, uplift you, stretch you, and remind you daily of your power. You must choose relationships that speak to your strength, not your fears. You must choose habits that amplify your vision, not dilute it. When you curate environments that reflect who you want to become, your growth becomes inevitable. Your decisions become sharper, your confidence grows, your path becomes clearer. And by the time 2026 arrives, you won't just be stepping into a new year, you'll be stepping into a new world you built intentionally from the ground up. Because when you upgrade your environment, you upgrade your entire existence. And suddenly, the life you once dreamed of becomes the life you are living. Focus is becoming rarer. And because of that, it's becoming more powerful. The world is louder than ever, pulling you, distracting you, dividing your mind into 1,000 directions. Every day, something tries to claim your attention. Notifications, conversations, headlines, obligations, noise that pretends to be urgent. And without realizing it, you begin to live reactively, not intentionally. You say you want change, but your attention is tied to everything except the life you're trying to build. Focus isn't simply about laser concentration. It's a commitment to directing your life instead of being dragged by it. Before 2026, you must reclaim that commitment. Because the future doesn't belong to the busiest, it belongs to the most focused. Distraction has become so normal that people don't recognize it as the enemy anymore. It doesn't always come from harmful places. Sometimes it comes from things that feel harmless. Quick entertainment, conversations that stretch too long, tasks that don't truly matter but feel productive enough to justify. Distraction doesn't need to destroy your life in one blow. It only needs to chip away at your time until you have none left for your dreams. And when you look back months later, you realize you've been sprinting on a treadmill, exhausted, moving but going nowhere. Focus forces you to confront that uncomfortable truth, that your time is slipping and your attention is the doorway through which it's disappearing. Protecting your focus means understanding that not everything deserves your energy. Some things are urgent but not important. Some things are tempting but not aligned. Some people want your attention more than they respect your boundaries. You don't owe anyone every moment of your day. You don't owe every distraction your curiosity. You don't owe every notification your response. Focus requires the courage to say no. No to the noise, no to the interruptions, no to the demands that don't fit your destiny. It also requires the courage to say yes. Yes to clarity, yes to discipline, yes to long-term thinking. When you protect your focus, you protect the possibility of your future. There is a mental and emotional strength that develops when you train your mind to stay present. In a world that rewards constant stimulation, stillness becomes a radical act. When you sit with your thoughts, when you work deeply without glancing at your phone, when you stay committed to a task long enough to enter your flow, you build mental power. You sharpen your mind the same way others sharpen skills. Focus is not just a habit, it's a muscle. And the more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. You stop being pulled into emotional whirlwinds. You stop losing momentum. You stop feeling overwhelmed. Focus gives you control, not over the world, but over your response to it. And that control is everything. Letting go of distractions also means letting go of the identity that depended on them. Sometimes we distract ourselves not because we're unfocused, but because we're afraid. Afraid to start, afraid to fail, afraid to succeed, afraid of stepping into the version of ourselves that demands more. So we hide behind busyness, we hide behind noise, we hide behind endless scrolling. But deep down, you know you were made for more. You know your potential is bigger than your patterns. Choosing focus is choosing to face the work, the purpose, the growth that your distractions tried to shield you from. It's choosing to live consciously instead of numbly. It's choosing to step into your next level instead of surviving the current one. When you master focus, you unlock a power most people never experience, the power of intentional living. No more drifting, no more wasted time, no more mistaking movement for progress. You begin to invest your attention instead of spending it. You begin to direct your day instead. Your environment is shaping you more than your intentions ever will. You can want change, you can dream of transformation, you can crave success. But if the environment around you is anchored in old habits, outdated expectations, or small thinking, you will always feel like you're pushing against a tide. People underestimate how deeply their surroundings program them. Your environment trains your mind. It dictates your energy. It reinforces who you believe you are. Before 2026 comes crashing in, you must reevaluate not only where you stand, but what surrounds you. Because you cannot plant a new life in the same soil that grew your limitations. And you cannot rise when the world around you keeps pulling you back into versions of yourself you're trying to outgrow. There are environments that feel comfortable but quietly suffocate your potential. These are the spaces where you never feel challenged, never feel inspired, never feel pushed. You know these environments because they feel warm but somehow keep you small. It's the friend group that laughs when you talk about your goals, the workplace that punishes ambition, the family pattern that teaches you to stay quiet, stay safe, stay predictable. Comfort becomes a trap disguised as peace. But peace is not the absence of effort. True peace is the presence of alignment. And if your environment isn't aligned with who you're becoming, it will always feel slightly wrong, even if no one else sees the damage it's doing. Growth starts the moment you stop justifying the spaces that shrink you. Sometimes upgrading your environment isn't about cutting people off. It's about allowing yourself to evolve beyond the rules they created. Some people knew you in a version of your life where small goals made sense. They knew you when you doubted yourself, when you dimmed your light, when you were still learning your worth. And because they met you there, they expect you to stay there. They cling to the version of you that felt familiar to them. But growth demands permission to redefine yourself, even if that makes others uncomfortable. You don't need to argue. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to shrink to fit old dynamics. You are allowed to outgrow people without outloving them. Your evolution is not betrayal, it's necessity. The environment you need is one that activates the strongest parts of you. You need spaces that remind you what you're capable of. People who speak your language of ambition. Circles where dreaming big isn't mocked but encouraged. Where taking risks isn't viewed as irresponsible but essential. The right environment elevates you without saying a word. It makes you feel like your goals are normal, your potential is obvious, your strength is expected. When you walk into rooms where excellence is the standard, you rise simply by existing there. But you have to choose those rooms intentionally. You must curate your influences the same way you curate your goals. With precision, honesty, and courage, your physical environment matters just as much. Energy lingers in the places you spend time. A messy space breeds a messy mind. A cluttered room breeds a cluttered identity. You deserve to live, work, and breathe in spaces that feel like the next chapter of your life, not the last one. A clean desk, an organized routine, a home that reflects clarity and ambition. These aren't small details. They are daily reminders that you are creating order, purpose, and direction in your life. When your space supports your discipline, your focus becomes sharper. When your environment reflects your vision, your habits begin to align instinctively. And alignment is everything when you're building a future. Ultimately, upgrading your environment means understanding that you become the energy you repeatedly expose yourself to. If the people around you don't believe in growth, it will always feel like you're swimming against the current. If your spaces don't support your vision, it will always feel like your progress requires extra force. But when you surround yourself with people, habits, and spaces that elevate your identity, your evolution becomes natural. Your confidence grows, your boundaries strengthen, your path becomes clearer, and you stop feeling torn between the life you want and the world you're stuck in because you've designed an environment where your potential is finally allowed to breathe. Because when you upgrade your environment, you upgrade your entire future. And suddenly, every step you take feels like it's pulling you forward instead of holding you back, of surviving it. You become sharper, clearer, more rooted in your vision. You begin to attract opportunities you once overlooked, because your mind is finely tuned to the frequency of your future. And by the time 2026 arrives,